All right. Greetings, Chudlings. Welcome to another episode of Chuddy's Corner, a very somber event. It is about 11:30 on Thursday, January 11th. The Celtics lost tonight, 135-102 to the Milwaukee Bucks. Essentially just an absolute shit pumping from start to finish, unfortunately. I do think, though, night two of a back-to-back, Noel, I kind of just consider this a bury the tape, forget about it type of game, but we do lose 135-102. We're here still to recap it. I am your host, Dugouts. With me, as always, is King Chuddy. King Chuddy, how are you feeling after this game tonight?
Feeling oddly at peace with it. I feel like it's almost easier to move on from a game like this than a heartbreaking final seconds loss in some way. So I've had enough time to digest it by now. I'm ready to move on.
That's actually a pretty good point. Like, I do feel like as brutal as this was, if a close loss would have been pretty more upsetting. But anyway, make sure if you're on Twitter, make sure you're following King at Chuddy's Corner. Make sure you're following me at Doug_outs. Make sure you're following Chud at King Chuddy. And also, wherever you listen to this podcast, make sure you've hit that subscribe button. Also, subscribe to the YouTube page if you're not already subscribed to that. But we also are anywhere that you guys can find a podcast: Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Podbean, Stitcher. What is it? Is that Stitcher?
Yeah, nailed it.
Right? I recently looked at our website. I couldn't believe how many platforms there were to play a podcast.
We're everywhere.
That's awesome. So make sure you're subscribed wherever the hell you're listening to this. If you're listening to this on Podbean, also tweet at us because I would just love to know what the hell's going on in your brain. But also, before we get started too, shout out to our sponsor, nickpareno.com. Nick Pareno, all your real estate needs. He's got you covered. Me and Chuddy both live in wonderful houses. Thank you, Nick Pareno. So nickpareno.com if you need a new house or if you just need if you're looking, anything that you need, he can help you out. But yeah, I mean, again, so we'll get right in this one. It was 135-102. I feel like that score doesn't even come close to like saying how like brutal of a game this was. Even though, I mean, that's a 33-point loss. I feel like it could have been like a 100-point loss as far as I was concerned. This is a bury the tape game. Celtics fall to 29-9. But go ahead, Chud. Why don't you go give us a breakdown of this game for anyone who didn't see it? Don't even bother watching it. Just listen to Chud's breakdown. What do you have, Chud?
Yeah, so I mean, first things first is obviously a Celtics podcast, but I think it would be disrespectful as New England fans to even talk about the game. Probably should just focus on Belichick leaving the pads as the main story.
I'm so down to just talk about that instead.
So anyway, this game was competitive for about 5 minutes. Came out, Bucks raced right out to an 11-2 lead. Dame hit a couple threes. Celtics missed some shots. Timeout. Celtics kind of got back into it, cut it to 3. Few dunks. They had some nice transition buckets. And then
all they could hit was dunks.
Well, that was exactly pretty much it. They just made dunks and layups. That was it. The Bucks, on the other hand, were absolutely nuclear shooting. Ended the first half into the first quarter, into the second quarter on a 25-0 run. They extended their lead from 8 to 33. And quite frankly, that was the ball game. The Celtics shot 1 of 16 from 3 in the first half. Hauser was the only one to hit a 3. It was an absolute demolition. They were down by 37 points at the half. They were 1 point away from getting doubled up. I think it was 37 to 70 or 6. I don't know. They were losing by
we were
almost
essentially
getting
double up. Let's just call
the game
it
was
double
over.
Up. There's no need to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was ugly, obviously. And I think not to make excuses, but if ever there was a scheduled loss, I think you could go see it tonight. The Celtics obviously playing their 5th game in 7 nights. Coming off the back-to-back last night with extremely physical T-Wolves game that went to overtime. We mentioned last night how basically all the starters played 40-plus minutes. Grueling victory, and then flying in. I guess they got to their hotel in Milwaukee last night just after 3 a.m.
Jesus.
16 hours later, they were out on the court tonight, and, I mean, you could just see it from the get-go. They were fatigued. They were missing shots. They seemed to step slow. The Bucks were just taking it to us and transition ruthlessly. The Bucks, of course, who have been off since Monday. So we saw Milwaukee on extra rest at home.
They've been off since Monday?
Yeah. They had 2 nights off.
Celtics. Right, we're going to get into the scheduling thing later, but go ahead. I'm sorry. Keep going.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, honestly, like I said, I don't want to make excuses, but that it's hard to watch that game and kind of say that's not the story of the game. The Celtics just, we've watched this team play now 30, 30 what, 37 times before tonight, and that we had not seen this
Yeah.
version at all this season, and you could just see it.
No.
They were completely gassed very quickly. They could, like I said, held up for maybe 5 minutes, and you could just see everything was off. Nobody was shooting. Like I said, not a single starter made a three. That's pretty crazy in itself. Every single starter was an opener.
And I also think the way the Bucks were hitting shots early, it was like that just like feeds into the like, all right,
exactly. So in that run I mentioned, it happened. It was the Celtics at that point were 1 of 13 from three. The Bucks were 7 of 11 from three. They in that point, part of that run was an 18-0 run, all Giannis and Bobby Portis, of course, who were friggin' insane off the bench.
Yeah, he had the game of his life.
Yeah, and at that point they were up 56-23 or 58-23, and like I said, that was the game. The Celtics were only scoring off basically backdoor cuts and dunks. It was like the only way we were scoring. Tried to bring in some different guys, get some energy, but again, you could just tell we didn't have it. And the Bucks, I mean, again, as bad as we played, the Bucks played that well. That's probably the best game they've played all season. You could tell this game meant a lot. They came out and again shot the lights out.
It was their Super
Giannis
Bowl.
was incredibly physical. Yeah, and I mean they dominated start to finish. I think if this game was closer, maybe would have more like breakdowns on specifics. Like it seemed like Drew was maybe a little tight, came out, looked like he was being just like a little aggressive, looking for a shot a little more than usual. Wasn't making it, but again, no one was making any shots, so it didn't really matter. Like it's hard to say much more. And again, by halftime, you could tell this game was over. If you stopped watching at that point, maybe you missed it, but Joe Mazzulla made the decision, didn't even bring the starters back for the second half. They were done at halftime, waved the white flag, came back with an all-bench lineup. We didn't see those guys for the rest of the night. Some people were saying that, kind of like a Bush League move. Some people were saying this is Joe's, like,
I don't hate that move.
It was like an FU by Joe to the league saying, like, you're going to give us this schedule and give us that bullshit Pacers call Monday night, then we're going to come out in your national TV marquee matchup and just play our scrubs for half the game.
Yeah.
I don't know
if it was that. I think it's just a smart move either way. Like that game, we weren't coming back.
Exactly, we weren't coming back. The team was just visibly gassed, couldn't make a shot, had no legs. And I mean, again, only have one night off, have to travel again on Saturday. So, like I mentioned already, 5th game in 7 nights, back to back on the road. We played 3 games in 4 nights in 3 different cities. Like, it's just a crazy schedule thing. That. As well as the Celtics have seemed to be gamers for everything that's come their way, at a certain point, like, it's going to catch up with you and you're just going to come out and lay an egg. We talk about it. We see every team in the NBA comes out and lays some eggs. This is really the first time the Celtics have done it all season, and they just laid one in miraculous fashion. We're not used to it, and it came in a game where, we were fired up because obviously it's, our chief rival, arguably, in the Eastern Conference. We want to see a good game, and like I said, you could just tell we weren't getting that.
We were fired up, to be honest.
I think just in general, not like the players. I just mean as like fans, we're fired up for the matchup. Yeah. Like it's Celtics Bucks. You want to watch a good game. A Eastern Conference Finals preview potentially, whatever. Drew returning to Milwaukee. Like all these great storylines, and you could just tell like one team had it and one team didn't.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, that's really just all there was to it. Like there was one basically moment when the game was still competitive, like the only moments of joy. I mean, it was nice seeing Porzingis get a few dunks, Jalen getting a few dunks. They had that backdoor play a few times. O'Shea Brissett came in for some early minutes, and his first play, he shook Dame with a crossover and then posterized Brook Lopez, which was just fucking awesome.
That was the highlight of the night.
But that was really the only good play while the game was actually competitive. And then again, from there, it's just the Bucks could not miss. And when they were missing, they were getting a lot of offensive rebounds, putting it back up. The Celtics just couldn't do anything, couldn't get any momentum going. And like you said, this is one where better off just burning the tape. And that's kind of what Joe said after the game. He's like, there's really just nothing concerning from this. It's just one of those nights. Like, this is clearly not who the Celtics are. I don't think anyone, I'm sure Bucks fans obviously are excited, and rightfully so. We'd be excited too if the roles were reversed. But I think any impartial NBA fan looking at this game is like, wow, that was crazy. Okay. But, like, moving on, this doesn't change anything, nor should it change, I don't think, anything about how anyone feels, like, long-term based on the entire body of work and sample size we've seen over the season. So, shitty game, not a fun night. But, like I said, at this point, by the end of halftime, I was already like, all right, I'm over it. Like, what's the next game up? And, Joe was obviously feeling the same way, playing the whole bench. And the starters were just chilling out, getting some rest for their Saturday's game. So,
yeah,
it is what it is. We've probably been spoiled that this is the first time in seemingly forever that we've just been straight up blown out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, this was definitely like jarring in that sense that we haven't had like a real like kind of blowout where we're giving a full effort like this. I I feel like there was one game that was like kind of close, but not
the
quite.
Magic. The Magic kind of blew us out, but even that wasn't until the third quarter where they really pulled away. It was nothing like this.
This was, you could tell in the first quarter that like the Bucks were literally making like every shot. There was one point when Brook Lopez hit like a logo three, and at that point, I'm surprised at that point that Joe didn't just bench all the starters right then, because if those are the shots that are falling, the Celtics shot 9 for 35 from 3, 34 from 91. 34 for 91 from the field.
One of those was in the first half. They were 1 of 16 at halftime from 3.
Yeah, so this was,
I wouldn't even count the second half stats really, because again, it was.
Well, yeah. So again, this to me, there's
the
like
threes that were hit were Hauser,
so little to
Speed,
talk
Ben,
about with this game. This is just a burn the tape. This was
100%.
like brutal. I think the Bucks came out. This was like a Super Bowl for them. You could tell that Giannis too. The few times early in the game when he got matched with Drew, he was like trying to go at him hard. Like this was a big game for them. I mean, we kicked their asses early in the year too, so it's like I feel like for them it was big, but I didn't realize that they've been resting till Monday. That's like absolutely bananas. It's just stupid. So they played Monday night. You're saying, So they had 2 days off, and then we had the back to back. So I mean, this is just a tough stretch of the schedule. I don't want to like point to that specifically, but like you said, if anyone who's actually follows the NBA on a regular basis, like they know that this is just
not who we are.
The Bucks can take their victory lap. There's going to be people obviously on social media like talking about this game. We got our asses kicked, but how many times have you and I on the podcast been doing a Celtics recap and mentioned how the Bucks were down like 20 or 30 to some shitty team?
A lot.
I mean, it happens. They weren't missing like anything, and we were missing everything. So it got to a certain point. I think Sean Grandy originally sent the tweet out, but it was like like at one point we were like 7 for 7 from dunks, but like 4 for like 28 for shots. It was some number like close to that. Or no, it was Dick Lipe. I'm sorry. 7 of the Celtics 11 baskets tonight have been dunks. They're 7 for 7 and 4 for 28 and other shots. That was like early in maybe the second, I think, that I saw that tweet. So again, this was just
you could just tell they didn't have their legs.
You just bury the tape. This game, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't mean anything. We still have a healthy lead against the Bucks in the conference. To the Bucks, I'm sure they're excited about it. I'm sure, and they deserve to enjoy it. They came out and if we did this to them, I would be the biggest asshole, like tap dancing all over the place. So they deserve it. But at the end of the day, I think that everyone, I think if you've been following the NBA and following the Celtics, you know this isn't really what this team is. Yeah. But I mean, the Bucks, they kicked the shit out of us. But I do think it was weird. They played their starters for like the whole third quarter. Like, what do you think that was like about?
I don't know. I think it's one of those things where it's weird because it's like, at first it's almost must be like a little embarrassing where it's like, all right, dude, like you're busting your ass up 40 against like Svi and like Cornell, chill out. Yeah. But at the same time for them, like I said, they haven't played in a while. The Bucks, we've mentioned, have been struggling a ton. They're still trying to find a rhythm. Like it's game reps for them. They're probably
them like kind of getting used to playing with each other, kind of thing, or
and they don't need. I mean, the rest of the whole fourth quarter, like I said, they're not fatigued. They're like, we want to play. I don't know.
I thought it was strange. I thought it was, but again, like it might have been a little bit of Joe being a little petty about it. Whatever, you know.
I mean, you don't see a lot of straight up halftime pull the starters. But I mean, again, I think it was warranted.
That was crazy.
But a lot of circumstances that led to that decision.
Close to the end of the second quarter, I jumped on the Celtics live to win, and then they came out with none of the starters. I mean, it wasn't a whole lot, but I feel like whenever they're down that much, you just have to at least like. It's just a lottery ticket. It's a scratch ticket.
And usually they at least make a run, but not the case tonight.
No.
Not the case tonight.
Yeah, so I don't know. I have really nothing else in this game. Like I said, it's a bury the tape game. We play again Saturday. Yeah. So we have one day off. So I don't know. I have nothing really. Do you have I know you said that you had a couple like kind of fun stats about the game. So why don't you go ahead and dish those out? Because I got really nothing else to say.
Fun of stats they are, but they're certainly will make you. So a few things, I guess, notes, stats, all kinds of things. So for one, if anyone stopped watching, at one point they actually took the game off TNT. I'm not sure I've ever seen this. They went back to the studio and Ernie was like, "So this game is unwatchable. We're gonna try to find a better game." And the only other
I didn't know they could do that.
Like I said, I'm not sure I've ever even seen this. They went to the local feed of Mavs Knicks, which was like also a 20-point blowout at the time. Barely even better. But that was, and again, this game was not on NBC Sportsnet, so there was literally no other way to watch it. So I was on the League Pass, the NBA app, and there's a TNT overtime camera, so I was watching the view from above the shot clock. I was watching Delano Banton and Svi make some threes and try to cut the lead down to about 35. So that was fun, but that just shows you how much of a shit show this game was. And again, I don't want to. I don't know. It just seems like it's crazy for the NBA, like how much the NBA talks about trying to like do things to make the league better and the regular season mean more and more watchable and stuff. And like they got to be sitting there embarrassed, like their marquee night, national TV spotlight. These are the games they put on, and this is what happens. Like, how are they not looking at the schedule and being like, you've created this awful game. Like, if you know you have a game like this, make sure the guys are on a back-to-back. Like, at the very least, it's just like, what do you do?
This is one of those games that from like the start of the year, you knew this was going to be.
Of course.
It's not like a team that like, oh, actually, they ended up being better than we thought they were going to be. Like,
this is arguably one of the biggest games of the season for fans.
And you can even say the same thing, too. They should have known the Timberwolves game, too, would have been like a pretty marquee match.
I mean,
like, the Timberwolves were pretty good last year.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
No, I agree. It's just like, so dumb, so frustrating. It's one of those, like, I hope the league is sitting there pissed at themselves because, like, they deserve to feel stupid after that. And I hope that's part of Joe was, like, sticking it to them is, like, you're going to give us this shitty schedule. We're going to give you this shitty product for your TV game. When they know that big TV deal's coming up, so maybe TNT I'll play hardball for the next TV deal.
Is this something, like, maybe I just don't, like, remember it in, like, previous years. I feel like the regional broadcast always, like, had the game. I feel like there's been 2 times this year that, well, Christmas, I know rare. Christmas is different.
It's rare, like, but there are a few once in a while. There will be like and it's usually these TNT like Thursday night games when there's like a wicked week schedule, so they just want everyone to watch that. I don't know if it's like a rule or if NBC just decides like we'll give the guys the night off to not travel. I don't know.
It sucked. I hate not having the regional. Yeah, although I will say a lot of people saying I do like Van Gundy. I do like Stan Van.
Well, if we're going to get national announcers, that's about as well as we could do. But a lot of people were saying that it was the Celtics were protesting, not going to bring out their A game for non-NBC sports.
I like that. If it's a road game, we're not, unless Drew Carter's there on the call, we're not doing it. Shout out Drew Carter.
I think that was part of it. So that was pretty much the highlight of the third quarter, was the game being physically taken off the air and there's no way for Celtics fans to watch it. The other highlight of the third quarter was Stan Van Gundy somehow starting a story about Jason Williams, white chocolate Jason Williams. I don't know if you're listening, but he started telling a story about some
hand up. I was out tonight. I didn't have volume on. I was watching it, but at that point it was such a freaking blowout. It was.
No, I mean, it wasn't much to watch, but it was some funny anecdotes, and somehow he got on a side tangent about some golf tournament that White Chocolate had won, and he said that the message from the tournament was White Chocolate telling him that it's not who can play the best golf in these tournaments, it's who can cheat the best, and he said, sure enough, a few hours later, he saw him walk into the clubhouse with the best score, so basically exposed Jason Williams for definitely cheating, strokes in that
to me, that's like so much better than anything they could have announced during the game.
Yeah, at that point, there was nothing else to talk about, so
pulling out the foot wedge.
Funny. Yeah, then the other stuff, we finally got an appearance from everyone's, favorite nepotism child, Thanasis Antetokounmpo. Tell me you saw when he came in.
So yeah, sure. I'll tell you that.
Well, no, if you did, you'd be cracking up because he literally came in first session, just like way over hustling, trying to poke it away into the backcourt. I forget. I think it was Brissett actually. And he tried to like get up in Brissett's grills, like pressure him in the backcourt, and they like bumped, and he just like flopped so hard. Fell down, and Brissett just went in for an easy dunk, and then they called him for a flopping technical on Thanasis.
Oh, I love
He'd been in the game for like 12 seconds. It was just so perfect.
That was it? He was only in for that? Then he left?
Well, no, but it was like 12 seconds into him coming in. He got
into him coming in the game.
Then, like, the next play, he went in for, like, a dunk attempt, and someone, I think it was Kata, like, stopped the shit out of him so bad he, like, fell down. It was like an embarrassment. It was like they pulled someone from the crowd and had him in the game. It's just like, how is this guy in the league?
It's wild. Like, I don't.
It's so sad to watch.
Was he undrafted? Obviously.
Yeah. He was like not even like a professional basketball player. I think he's
so
literally
it's like a pit. Yeah.
Which is a fair tax to pay. Like, I can't really blame them, but watching him on the court is just like, if I was a fringe, like, NBA guy trying to latch on with, like, 10-day contracts and I'm watching this guy, I'd be like, what the fuck? Like,
yeah, that's unfortunate.
But he's just so like easy to despise if you're not a Bucks fan, and watching him just absolutely embarrass himself on the court was made the fourth quarter a little more enjoyable.
I'm gonna have to find that clip.
Yeah. Another thing in the fourth quarter that was hilarious, down 33, Joe challenged a foul. I don't know, he saw that, he called a green light special with like 8 minutes left in the fourth, down by 30 plus, and he won the challenge, and it was the same call from the other night, because it was a block, and he hit him on the head, and they overturned, they were consistent, they gave us the no call, so Joe won the challenge.
So we hit a guy in the head?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's the same thing, and
he obviously was trolling with that kind of call, right? Well, because he does
partial trolling, but he's done it on the other end, so I like that he's consistent, because we've been up by like 35, and he's challenging, people got pissed, and he was like, hey, he's like, whoever I have on the court, like, those guys are out there busting their ass. Hey, he's like, I owe it to them to like coach my hardest, so I appreciate the consistency out of Joe on that one. I thought it was hilarious, but very on brand for our friendly psycho coach.
Just a quick aside, shout out to Joe doing the sleeveless hoodie today. Salute to Belichick. That's awesome. I mean, that was awesome. That made me very proud to have that guy as our coach.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then tits ripped off, but that also goes in with the kind of the Patriots of this year. So he kind of kept in line with that.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't want to steal the thunder.
Zero offense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, positive note, our bench outscored their bench 71-54.
Oh, that's so good to hear.
Yeah, I thought you'd like that one.
Scored, and I think he had like
Pritchard was high score with 21 points. Yep. Indeed he was. Yeah.
Christ.
Sam Hauser, homecoming. He's a Wisconsin kid. He probably played as well as anyone. He shot 4 of 8 on threes. He had our only 3 in the first half, so good for him. Then just a few funny, if you want to call them funny stats. But so one, I don't know if you knew this, but after LeBron is by far the longest streak in NBA history going. It's like 1,100 games straight. He scored at least double-digit points. The second longest active streak in the NBA was Tatum going into tonight at 163. That streak is now over, as Tatum only scored 7 points tonight. So the stat patter himself, Embiid, will now catch him because he was 1 game behind. Durant was a few games behind. So pretty impressive, actually, for Tatum. And just goes to all the haters out there who love to rip these guys for bad games. It's like he literally had the longest second streak. But also, props to the Celtics for not caring enough about some meaningless streak to put it back in, because I think we know some other guys on that list would not have been so willing to take half the game off.
And Embiid would have injured himself and missed 4 games just to get that streak.
Yeah, and I mean, again, all of the Celtics stats, like, again, you're talking about these guys. Tatum lately has been talking about an MVP push. I'm sure a lot of guys aren't going to want to hurt their averages by having a 7-1-3 stat line go into this. So, stuff like that, it's just cool to see the Celtics don't give a shit about that stuff. They just care about winning, and they're not going to risk anything stupid to get their stats. But some other streaks, this snapped our 12 straight games of scoring at least 118 points, which if we had done that again tonight would have tied the longest streak in NBA history with, I think it was the 84 Nuggets. So missed our shot at that. We had the best net rating in the league by far at 10.3.
That's gotta be dead now.
It went all the way down to 9.2, so a full point drop in net rating. 38 games into the season is.
I feel like that's still going to be pretty high though on the list, though.
I think the Thunder, who won by 62, passed us by like point something, but we're still right in second. Again, that just kind of shows how some of these net rating stats can get a little wonky. Our starting 5 only scored 31 points in this game, which is insanely low, obviously. Usually we have at least one starter scores that by themselves. It was the fewest points the Celtics starting lineup has scored since 1994, not counting Game 82s, where we obviously just like did weird shit.
That was the year before we drafted Pierce, right? That was the tank for Pierce year?
No. Wasn't Pierce was a little later than that.
Was he 90?
Pierce was like 97, maybe? I think so.
Who am I thinking of that was 94? I don't know.
Not sure. It was pre-20.
Just go ahead. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to me.
All right, cool.
Just go.
It was 1 point away. This was the Celtics' second biggest halftime deficit in franchise history, and the biggest was in 1967. So that's pretty crazy.
That was in like the midst of our title run, though, so that's like kind of good.
Yeah, it's a good omen. This also ties the largest loss, the 33-point loss, is the biggest ties for the biggest loss the Celtics have had in the last 21 years. And that tied last year's in OKC, which was also right after New Year's. If you remember, we went in and just got absolutely pounded. So that was fun.
That's fun.
And then this, I think we were down at one point by like 41 might have been it, and that was just the largest deficit the Celtics have had in any game since 2015. So, whole bunch of crazy stats to throw at you, and I think all of those just show how much game is just like a outlier and one of those things where sometimes you just basically get hit by a train. That's what happened. And it is what it is. Like we keep saying, you just burn the tape. There's really no reason to watch this. I don't think anything you can take away from it on a positive note. Just have to lick our wounds, forget it ever happened. Maybe use the Men in Black clicker and move on with our lives.
Chuddy, I have no idea. I'm gonna have to figure out how to edit this, but
chop these together.
Yeah.
All right. Do you know where I cut out?
It was somewhere around like the second, like in one half, like deficit or something. I mean,
okay.
For anyone who's listening, because I don't know how well I'm going to be able to edit this, we have no idea what just happened Wi-Fi wise.
Yeah, little glitch. I think this is probably good. What happened to the Celtics tonight? The Celtics were off their game. They've had 5 games in 7 nights. We've had 5 pods in 7 nights, so we're playing on tired energy here. We're at the end of a long trip.
Where the podcast just dropped out was essentially Ben listing every depressing, Chuddy listing every depressing stat that we've ever had to deal with. But
so basically, to sum up whatever you might have missed, this was a historically bad night for the Celtics. Brutal. Set a ton of records or snapped a ton of streaks of things they had been doing well, or matched records of things they had done poorly. And again, I think this all just goes to show this is one of those games. There's really nothing you can take away from it because it just was not really a normal basketball game. I think you take out the Men in Black flasher and you just move on, kind of pretend it never happened.
That's the only thing you can do after this game.
It is.
You can't take you literally, and this is no hyperbole. You can't take anything out of this game. This game, if you're the Celtics, this game never happened. It's
exactly
just completely ignore it. Completely ignore it. We were looking ahead to the Ime game.
One uplifting stat, if you guys are looking for it, if you just want to see anyone who's like, oh, blah, 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 whatever, who's down, which I think would be stupid. But I'm sure there are people
an uplifting one.
Our friend, good friend of the pod on Twitter, Frosty Bias, tweeted out that in the Bulls' record-setting 72-10 season, they lost a game to the Knicks by 32 points that season.
Love that.
Went on to beat the Knicks in 5 easily in the playoffs. So just goes to show. It happens to even the best teams of all time are going to have nights.
And there's no back-to-backs in the playoffs.
Nobody shows up 82 times and plays their best. It was bound to happen. It sucks it happened against the Bucks, and their stupid fans are going to talk shit about it. But, we show up like this.
We smoked their ass in the first game, though. Fuck them. I know they made it close, but we jumped out to a big lead.
And the last time we played them in Milwaukee, if you recall, last year on March 30th, we beat them by more than this. So the last 2 games aggregate in Milwaukee, we still won.
Hell yeah. All right.
So we got some positives to finish out.
All right. I'm totally lost in the timer count now, but why don't we switch over to around the NBA?
Sounds good.
Just happened there. Go ahead.
Done a ton. Obviously, as we just mentioned, we've been with you guys a lot of nights lately. We were with you last night, so not a ton has changed. But last night, we mentioned that the Spurs got a road win against the Pistons. Wemby had his first career triple-double, did it in only 25 minutes, did not have a turnover. Very impressive stuff. The kid just keeps getting better and better. Cool to see.
I saw he's now back to being the favorite for Rookie of the Year.
Indeed. So good
I'll
for
keep
him.
Trolling, but he probably deserves it.
He might not be a bust. Yeah, you ready to say that?
Exactly. Yeah, he might not be a bust. I think I'm willing to say that
conceding that
probably
he might not be
isn't a bust. Yeah, I will say that.
Well, he's winning people over, folks. Then in another game last night, we also had mentioned during the show that the Warriors were getting absolutely trounced at home by the Pelicans. Well, that was a historical trouncing as well because it was the worst home loss ever for the Warriors under Steve Kerr, and that's in 453 games. So just anyone who thinks like the Warriors, they're still the Warriors, they're going to turn it on. No, they came out. Curry's finally getting pissed. I think they came out with the report today.
Is he going to get a Spoelstra extension? I saw an article like, what does the Spoelstra extension mean for Kerr? Like, I feel like Spoelstra's proven.
I was thinking if anything, he could be retiring or something. He could be out of there. I don't know. They're going to make changes.
They've won more, but I feel like Spoelstra has
Oh yeah,
proven
done more
way,
with
like way
less.
more. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no question about it.
I do think though that the Heat should not have signed him to that extension. They should not have done that.
Why?
Because I don't like that he's the coach of the Heat. I'd rather him go coach a West Coast.
I don't like it. Team. I thought you meant you didn't think they should have done it.
Yeah, if you're a Heat fan, you love it. I'm saying for me personally, I wish the Heat said that is too much money and too much time, sir. You're going to be on your own.
I think he should go for a bigger challenge, try to coach in college or something.
That'd be awesome.
Best for everyone. But yeah, so then in some not on the court news, those are kind of the games from last night. To recap, news coming out today is the NBA Global Games or whatever was today. They had the game in Paris, which I just think it's so stupid that they try to do this. Like, it's a cool idea, but you're doing it on a Thursday. The game's at 2 p.m. Eastern time here. Like, I get, obviously, the time difference.
I literally had no idea that was happening.
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. They could do way more to hype this up. Put it on a Sunday on ABC. Like, make it a marquee. You could have it like a 3 p.m. game or something. It wouldn't be crazy for there. That's again, bananas. I think they could just do a much better job. And it's like the Nets versus the Cavs are the teams they sent too. Which, like, come on. I mean, I know there's some good players. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell, like whatever. But come on, that's the best you can offer for this.
I literally had no idea that was happening. That's crazy.
There you go. Well, that's kind of making my point. Exactly.
Yeah.
Did not do enough to hype this up, but Adam Silver did do a press conference. One of the things had been hinted at in the past. It sounds like they will definitely be moving to the 2-night NBA draft event format. So I'm excited for that. I've been saying for years I think they should do one pick a night and make it a 4-hour show. 60 days, stretch out for 60 days, make it the whole offseason. Basically.
I'll be honest, Chud. I know you're like an NBA sicko and you'll love that, but for me personally, I cannot imagine tuning in for the second night of the second round of the NBA draft. I can't even imagine
that is sickos only hours. That is sickos only hours. 100%.
Exactly. Yeah, that is sickos only. I feel like I don't even tune in after like the 10. I look back when the Celtics are picking, but after like the top like 5, that's crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like again, from their point of view, like the second round is sickos only. The way they have it now, it basically starts at 11 p.m. to 1, so they're like, whatever, it's a sickos event anyway, we might as well just make it its own night. Like, it's the middle of the off season for sports, like there's nothing else going on, so they can at least get more sickos if it's on at 8 p.m. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, whatever, I'll be watching either way. So, yeah, like I said, more off season content, the better for me, for Chuddy's Corner, therefore the world.
Sure.
Some less happy news. Again, we talked about the night, Marcus Smart with a big performance, hitting that 3 with a dislocated finger. Well, it turns out that finger was pretty severely mangled, and he's now going to need surgery and will be out at least 6 weeks. Again, this season is truly just one bad thing after another happening to this poor Grizzlies team who had championship aspirations. And
at the end of the day, it's probably a blessing in disguise. Like they'll probably get a pretty decent pick now to go.
Yeah, I mean
that roster with a decent lottery pick is definitely something to fuck with.
Yeah, I mean, they'll almost certainly get a top 10 pick now, run it back. Like you said, it definitely might be a blessing in disguise because they probably did need to get one more good player. So, yeah, it could be the best thing that happened to him, but just as a fan of the team, of Smart, obviously sad to see, and kind of sad note that now the one Grizzlies at Celtics game this year, Smart will definitely not be playing. He obviously missed the first game in Memphis, so... We'll have to wait. I almost spent
$250 on those tickets. I'm glad I didn't. Any chumblings out there that did, I'm sorry for you, but
I know. Well, it'll probably still be there. I wouldn't be surprised if they do a tribute video and stuff. So you'll get some defect, and you'll probably get to see a nice win because God knows what kind of roster the Grizzlies will be trotting out. Yeah. So it could be worse. But sad to see, of course. Get well soon, Marcus. Positive injury news for a change. I feel like we never get to talk about that, but Lamelo Ball has been upgraded. Looks like he might be nearing a return. So, again, I just hate, obviously, good young players. You never want to see them out. And as a league pass sicko like myself, that's huge because the Charlotte Hornets are definitely, without Lamelo, possibly right in the discussion for at least watchable team. Yeah. And just not fun. Like, they got Terry has his moments where he can still, like, win a game by himself. But other than that, they're a tough watch. And Lamelo, obviously, on, like, the fun watchability scale is very high. So he will immediately at least make that team fun. We saw firsthand how the Hornets beat us with Lamelo playing awesome. So it'll be nice to have him back. And then just a couple notes on games tonight. Any Celtics fans, again, who are down on the Celtics? Boy, if you thought that the Celtics got blown out tonight, you obviously didn't see the Thunder Blazers game. The Thunder won 139-77. a 62-point win.
Jesus
The
Christ.
Thunder had 75 at halftime. The Blazers finished with 77. So they almost took the entire game to outscore what the Thunder had at halftime.
That's
I think I
unfortunate,
thought it was the 5th biggest blowout in NBA history. So again, this is another one of those just like, it could, no matter how bad you think you have it, it could always be worse. But for the Blazers fans, yikes, it really can't be worse than this. The Blazers are a team that I've been, for those bottom few teams in my power rankings, I've been giving them some props that they've at least been like a competitive tanking team. But the last few games, I don't know what has happened because that has certainly stopped. So again, in terms of watchability, the Blazers are one of the teams I depend on for those late night games when everyone else is going to bed. So I'm going to need them to start to put up a little more of a fight than this. And then really the only other interesting note was the OG Anunoby Knicks finally lost. They were 5-0 and they lost in Dallas to a very depleted Mavericks team. They didn't have Luka, they didn't have Lively, they didn't have Dante Exum, a few other guys. It was Kyrie Irving show. Maybe the best game he's had in years. He had 44 points, 10 assists, super efficient shooting, and helped that very shorthanded Mavericks to an impressive win over the Knicks, who had been one of the hottest teams in the East. So good for them. Good for the Mavericks. I gotta say, they're playing some good ball. And Kyrie, this is like the fun part where they're like, Kyrie's so awesome. I don't get what everyone didn't like about him. So just wait. I'm sure they'll soon enough.
He's not like shitting all over the shoes. He's playing pretty well.
I'm sure the other shoe will drop any minute. But if he could be whipping up a tweet as we speak. So, but embrace the good times.
We've been there,
Mavericks fans.
I'm actually wearing my. You can't really tell. I'm wearing my Kyrie is a douche T-shirt.
Oh, nice. Yeah, he is.
That was nice.
That is true.
Shout out to the random vendors outside the garden. Shout out.
Factually correct. And yeah, that's it. Only other game right now, we got Phoenix is putting a 24-point beat down on the Lakers in the Crypt. So I mean, I know you don't like the Suns, but I assume you'll still want them to win over the Lakers.
I'd rather the Lakers.
Lesser of two evils type of situation there. Lakers missing the playoffs would be obviously a dream come true. So we will certainly be rooting for that. Hope the score holds. It's only about 7 minutes left. So I think looks like the starters might be done for the night in this one as well. So big night of blowouts all across the NBA.
A lot of resting.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of it. That's where we're at.
All right. We have the Rockets on Saturday. Ime coming back. Hide your kids, hide your wives. What do you got on that game? Give us a little quick breakdown on that.
Yes, I mean, obviously, Ime is the story in this one. And I think the Celtics will come out, and I bet they'll be pretty fired up for this game. I think they want to go prove something, and honestly, I think they want to win it for Joe. I think Joe, fair or not, he's gotten a lot of shit from local media and local shitheads who, we miss Ime, he's so much better, blah, blah, blah. I think there's this whole, Joe, you only have the job because he did this shit, you're not a real coach, whatever people want to say.
Yeah,
I think this one definitely means a little extra to him. We know how competitive Joe is, and I think we know that he'll have the guys ready, and that the guys, I think, will want to go out and prove a point, win this one for Joe in pretty big fashion. We saw it a little bit in that Utah game last week where Will Hardy came to town, Danny Ainge, and you could tell the Celtics seemed like they took that one personally, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see something similar just in terms of our energy back in the Garden, all that and the other. And if we lose the fucking 18-0 at home to Ime, God, talk about
that would be a talk radio freaking dreamland.
Yeah, exactly. So
can't have that.
They can't have that in general. But in terms of the actual matchup on the court, the Rockets, props to them. Ime, I mean, they were a laughingstock of the league for probably about 5 years. Ime has immediately made them competitive. They're, in the playoff mix right now. A lot of that is thanks to Alperen Şengün, one of the best young players in the league. If you haven't gotten a chance to watch this guy, he's probably the closest thing to Jokic in the entire league. Much younger. He's only in his 3rd year, but this guy, he's like a point center. He's huge. He can shoot. He can pass. He can score. He's putting up triple doubles. He just looks like a big, goofy, out of shape European guy. It's kind of similar. So, again, it's throwing around Jokic comps is pretty crazy, but if there's a guy in the league, his year 3 stats are better than Jokic's. So he's on a trajectory. Again, we'll see. But if you haven't gotten a chance to watch him, you're in for a treat watching him. And they have a lot of good players. They've got some injuries right now. Dylan Brooks has missed some games. Tari Eason, which those two guys kind of gave him their defensive intensity, which has been the main reason this team is competitive. Is they've had a top 5 defense under Ime. They're missing those guys, but they still got Fred VanVleet, some really exciting young players. Cam Whitmore, the rookies, finally got a chance to play. Amen Thompson, another rookie who's gotten a chance to play. Jabari Smith, last year's top 3 pick. So they've got a pretty talented roster. A lot of guys, I think it could be one of those games where he's on on their team. Oh, they have him now. Nice. So, and they play hard, as will be no surprise. We know how Ime coaches and his style, so you can expect a physical, grinded out game that they will not quit and they'll be giving it their all. But on talent, we should be able to beat them. And again, with the matchup, the coaching matchup, Ime returning, should be fired up. After the loss we just took in Milwaukee, we should be fired up. So again, I'm expecting a much different Celtics team than we saw tonight. I'm expecting us to come out fired up, get a good win against a good team, though. It won't be easy. I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a really fun game, unless we lose, in which case the discourse will be absolutely intolerable.
Yeah, no, it's an exciting game. Yeah, it'll be a good one. But, yeah, so looking forward to seeing everyone again on Saturday again. This game tonight never even happened. Don't even worry about it. We had some technical difficulties. It may not even have recorded anything. Yeah.
I think we just said burn the tape so many times that something
I think the podcast may have literally burnt the tape. But anyway, we'll see everyone here back again on Saturday night. Everyone have a good night. Take care. Chuddy, you have a good night as well.
Peace out, Chuddy heads.